What's going on, football fans? It's your host, Bad Takes, with Bad Takes in Football, back with another video for you. Excited to dive into today's topic, which is Myles Garrett getting traded to the Los Angeles Rams. But before I do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're building an awesome community here where we talk everything NFL football. So please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Let's go ahead and dive into today's video. The Los Angeles Rams have made some very interesting decisions this offseason. In one extent, you would say that they were preparing for their future by using a first-round draft pick on quarterback Ty Simpson out of Alabama, who would be considered more of a project and not a ready-made quarterback, especially when they have reigning MVP Matt Stafford as their quarterback. So preparing for the future with a decision like a Ty Simpson. And then they go ahead and make a crazy trade, which I think is an awesome fit for this Rams team, who should be prepared to make a Super Bowl run by adding Myles Garrett, reigning Defensive Player of the Year from the Cleveland Browns, to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, they did obviously have to give up some very valuable pieces. Jared Verse, who was a first-round pick in 2024 by the Los Angeles Rams, is now headed to Cleveland along with a first-round pick and then other draft compensation that hasn't necessarily been discussed yet. So the Cleveland Browns, they're losing their best player, probably the best player in the NFL. I'm talking offense and defense. Myles Garrett is the best player in the NFL. This is a guy that signed a $40 million of a year contract last year after requesting a trade last offseason, signed a deal, and then stuck with the Browns for one more year. And it was a terrible year. And I think he knew that they were heading into yet another failed season, and he just doesn't want to be a part of it. Myles Garrett was not showing up to camp. He was not showing up to organized team activities, OTAs. And I think this was a sign to the Browns that Myles Garrett was done in Cleveland. I think he was done in Cleveland a long time ago. But the fact of the matter is, he signed that $40 million a year contract last year, and instead of sticking to his guns and requesting for a trade then, he now gets that contract that he wanted, but now he also gets to go to Los Angeles from Cleveland. Let's not even talk about the sports side of things. You get to move from Cleveland to Los Angeles. Think about just the quality of life, how that's going to be better. And then on top of that, you're on a team that's contending for the Super Bowl. Myles Garrett has touched the playoffs a couple times in his career, and he hasn't sniffed a conference championship. He has no idea what that's even like. And now he gets to go to the Los Angeles Rams, where they are a Super Bowl contender. This is a team that is going to be ready to go. They had such a talented defense already, on top of a very prolific, explosive offense. And so this is a huge value add for this Los Angeles Rams team. You're talking about giving up a defensive end who had 7.5 sacks last year in Jared Verse for the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. Myles Garrett had 23 sacks last year. So think of the disparity between 7.5 to 23 sacks. That's a huge difference. The Rams are getting a complete disruptor when it comes to Myles Garrett. This is a level of talent that they haven't had since Aaron Donald retired. And now they get a defensive piece just like him. That is very scary. The NFC West is going to be an absolute bloodbath, especially between the Rams, the 49ers, and then the reigning Super Bowl champions. We're talking about the Seattle Seahawks. Like, who wants to play in that division right now? I feel terrible for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, on the other side of things, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers have to be the happiest people in the world after today's trade. Myles Garrett, in multiple occasions, has had 4 sacks in a game on these quarterbacks. I know for a fact it happened with Lamar Jackson, and I believe it also happened with Joe Burrow. And so these 3 quarterbacks, like I said, Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, they have to be the happiest people on the planet right now. The AFC North, the other teams other than the Browns won this trade. They are the true winners of this trade, is the other teams in the AFC North. The Browns, they obviously got some value out of him. I think Jared Verse is a really good player. I think he's going to be valuable for them. But again, this is Cleveland. They do not have a winning culture. They have no idea what it's like to be a winning culture. And so sadly, Jared Verse is now going to become a victim of that, in my opinion. I still think he's going to have good stats. I think he's going to have a good career, but if I were him, I would try to get out of Cleveland as soon as possible. Like as soon as that rookie contract ends, get out of there. Now, again, what does this also mean for the Cleveland Browns? This is a team that, at this point, you'd have to imagine Deshaun Watson is going to be their quarterback. They did add some offensive weapons in the draft, but you're also talking about a team who has an injury at running back in Quinshon Judkins, who broke his leg last year late in the season. And so you're not really expecting a lot out of Cleveland. And so you have to think this is them preparing and trying to get better for the future. One of the biggest aspects of the Cleveland Browns winning in this trade is the fact that Jared Verse is a younger edge rusher. So you're talking about someone that you're going to be able to hold on to for longer than 4 or 5 years, which is where I really see the max of Myles Garrett playing. Myles Garrett is in his 30s, and so he's not going to be playing at a high level for that much longer. I still think he's going to be a dominant player for the next couple years, but we will start to see him fall off in probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. He might end up deciding it's time to hang it up. I don't see Myles Garrett as someone that's going to stick around just to be able to get a paycheck. He's someone that I think wants to be dominant. And if you remember when he was drafted, the biggest concern that teams had about Myles Garrett when he was getting drafted was he had other interests outside of football, and they were worried that he was going to pursue those. And so maybe there will be a time after maybe he gets a Super Bowl or two with the Rams, if he's lucky, that he does decide to hang up the cleats and ride off into the sunset. We will see about that. But what do you guys think about this trade? Do you think that the Rams are currently the Super Bowl favorites after this trade? I can't think of a team that is more equipped or more prepared, obviously, other than potentially the Seattle Seahawks, who, they lost weapons. They lost the reigning Super Bowl MVP in Kenneth Walker. He's now on the Chiefs. And so it's not like they just completely reloaded there. And so, again, this Rams team, they are scary. And then you have the Cleveland Browns, who I think are placing themselves firmly where they're comfortable, which is in dead last in the AFC North. What do you guys think about this trade? Do you think, again, that the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl? Do you think that the Cleveland Browns are going to try to just completely tank and go for Archie Manning? That's it for me today. Thank you again for watching. This is your host, Bad Takes, with Bad Takes in Football, signing out.